अमजाम् अनिरोधां नभोरूपां स्वसंविज्ञानगोचरां प्रत्येकैकस्यतां वन्दे त्रिकालजिनमातरम्। मैले यस्तो सुने एक समयमा भगवान राजगृहमा गृध्रकूट पर्वतमा ठुलो भिक्षु सङ्घका साथमा र ठुलो बोधिसत्व सङ्घका साथमा विहार गर्नुभएको थियो। त्यो बेलामा नै भगवान गम्भीरावसम्बोध नाम गरेको समाधिमा प्रवेश गर्नुभयो। त्यही बेलामा आर्य अवलोकितेश्वर बोधिसत्व महासत्व गम्भीर प्रज्ञा पारमितामा चर्या गर्दै रहँदा यसरी हेर्नुहुन्थ्यो कि 5 स्कन्धहरूलाई स्वभाव शून्य देख्नुहुन्थ्यो। अनि आयुष्मान सारिपुत्रले बुद्धको अनुभावले गर्दा आर्य अवलोकितेश्वर बोधिसत्वलाई यस्तो भन्नुभयो, जो कोही कुलपुत्रले यो गम्भीर प्रज्ञा पारमितामा चर्या गर्न इच्छा गर्दछ भने उसले कसरी सिक्नु पर्दछ। यति भनेपछि आर्य अवलोकितेश्वर बोधिसत्व महासत्वले आयुष्मान सारिपुत्रलाई यस्तो भन्नुभयो, हे सारिपुत्र, जो कोही कुलपुत्र या कुलपुत्रीले यो गम्भीर प्रज्ञा पारमितामा चर्या गर्न इच्छा गर्दछ उसले यसरी हेर्नु पर्दछ। ती 5 स्कन्धहरूलाई पनि स्वभाव शून्य देख्दछ। रूप शून्यता हो, शून्यता नै रूप हो। रूप भन्दा शून्यता बेग्लै होइन, शून्यता भन्दा रूप बेग्लै होइन। जुन रूप हो त्यही नै शून्यता हो, जुन शून्यता हो त्यही नै रूप हो। यसै गरी वेदना, संज्ञा, संस्कार र विज्ञानहरू पनि शून्यता नै हुन्। यस प्रकार हे सारिपुत्र, सम्पूर्ण धर्महरू शून्यता लक्षणवाला छन्। उत्पन्न नभएका, निरोध नभएका, मल नभएका, विमल पनि नभएका, कमी नभएका, सम्पूर्ण पनि नभएका छन्। त्यसकारण नै सारिपुत्र, शून्यतामा न रूप हुन्छ, न वेदना, न संज्ञा, न संस्कारहरू, न विज्ञान हुन्छन्। न चक्षु हुन्छ, न कान, न नाक, न जिब्रो, न शरीर, न मन हुन्छ। न रूप हुन्छ, न शब्द, न गन्ध, न रस, न स्पष्टव्य हुन्छ, न धर्महरू हुन्छन्। न चक्षु धातु हुन्छ र त्यहाँदेखि लिएर न मनोधातुसम्म केही हुन्छ। न धर्म धातु छ, न मनोविज्ञान धातु छ। न विद्या छ, न विद्याक्षय छ र यहाँदेखि लिएर न जरा मरणसम्म केही छ। न जरा मरणको क्षय नै छ। न दुःख समुदय निरोध र मार्गहरू छन्। न ज्ञान छ, न प्राप्ति छ, न अप्राप्ति नै छ। त्यसकारण हे सारिपुत्र, प्राप्ति नहुनुले गर्दा बोधिसत्वहरूको प्रज्ञा पारमितालाई आश्रय गरेर चित्तको आवरण हट्दछ। चित्तको आवरण नभएपछि त्रासरहित भएर विपर्यासहरूलाई अतिक्रमण गरेर निर्वाणमा स्थित हुन्छन्। तिनै कालमा भएका सबै बुद्धहरू प्रज्ञा पारमितालाई आश्रय बनाएर नै अनुत्तर सम्यक सम्बोधिमा अभिसम्बुद्ध भएका हुन्छन्। त्यसकारणले प्रज्ञा पारमिताको महामन्त्रलाई जान्नु पर्दछ। जुन अनुत्तर मन्त्र हो त्यो समानको अर्को कुनै पनि नभएको मन्त्र हो। सबै दुःखहरूलाई शान्त पार्ने मन्त्र हो। यो सत्य हो, मिथ्या नभएको हुनाले प्रज्ञा पारमितामा बताइएको मन्त्र हो। जुन यस प्रकार छ, गते गते पार सङ्गते बोधि स्वाहा। गते गते पार सङ्गते बोधि स्वाहा। गते गते पार सङ्गते बोधि स्वाहा। यसरी सारिपुत्र, गम्भीर प्रज्ञा पारमितामा चर्या गर्न बोधिसत्वले सिक्नु पर्दछ। अनि त भगवान त्यस समाधिबाट जागेर आर्य अवलोकितेश्वर बोधिसत्वलाई साधुवाद दिनुभयो। साधु साधु कुलपुत्र, त्यो ठिक हो, कुलपुत्र त्यो ठिक हो। गम्भीर प्रज्ञा पारमितामा यसरी नै बोधिसत्वले सिक्नु पर्दछ। जस्तो कि तिमीले निर्देश गर्यौ, तथागत अरहन्तहरूले अनुमोदन गर्नुहुन्छ। भगवानले यस्तो भन्नुभयो, उदात्त मन भएका आयुष्मान सारिपुत्र र आर्य अवलोकितेश्वर बोधिसत्व सहित त्यो सबै परिषद, देव, मनुष्य, असुर, गन्धर्व सहित लोकले भगवानले भनेको कुरालाई अभिनन्दन गरे।
I must generate right motivation to say whatever I have been saying and whatever I'm going to say, that this will bring some sort of understanding and then eventually contribute to your realization, and also on the larger from the larger point of bigger point of view, benefit all sentient beings. This is motivation I have to have. At the least, at the least, my motivation is to impress you with the Dharma, not with me. And I should not be taking things for granted, like being served this nice orange juice, put in a nice place, no need to wear a tag. All these privileges that I have, I should have the, I should take this as a, gesture of respect to the profound and the vast teaching of Prajnaparamita that you are offering. And I shall also remind you, the listeners, especially for those who are following Buddha Dharma, to not only listen to this to increase your knowledge in Buddha Dharma or to finish your thesis or whatever, dissertation, but really so that you will understand this and somehow benefit others. Your motivation is so important. Motivation will determine your path. You should not listen to these teachings. Actually, you should not listen to these teachings even for the sake of your enlightenment. Who cares about your one's own enlightenment? That is the Mahayana attitude. I don't care whether I get enlightenment or not. I want everyone to be enlightened. That is your motivation. You should not be worried about whether you are practicing Dharma okay, whether you are sitting properly or not, you are getting closer to the enlightenment or not. Those are very lesser attitude, coward attitude. You should try to avoid that. If your motivation is grand, then everything what you hear and what you will do, Shariputra's question, how to be, how to walk, how to listen, how to act. If you're a bodhisattva, if your motivation is grand, then you will hear it in a grand way. Okay? And then another thing, I'm just telling you this is a traditionally emphasized method, tuning the motivation. And as an expounder of the teaching, I should also, we say not only I invite you, I welcome you, I welcome ghosts. I hope they sit here, there, between you, Nagas, Rakshasas, Dakas, Dakinis. So I shall also, invite all of you, male, females, others, and I shall invite all the Dharma bums. I shall welcome all those who have curiosities. I shall invite all the Indian spies, Chinese spies, Tibetan spies, Bhutanese spies, all the spies. This is it. Fantastic opportunity for you spies to hear Prajnaparamita. Please make note and report to the higher beings. Nothing better. You will have a merit by doing it. So, continuing from what we discussed yesterday, but I think before that I need to tell you this. Prajnaparamita is a label. It's a name. Buddhists have so many names referring to one thing. This is again probably very Indian psyche, Indian way of thinking. Things like Shiva has 1,000 names. I sponsored a Shiva fire puja with some Indian Pandit, those pujaris. He said, how many names should I chant? 1,000 will take like 6-7 days. I said, okay, only 100. So Prajnaparamita is a name. There is also Shunyata, which is referring to the same thing, but a different. And then there is, dependent arising. Dependent arising, we call it. The same thing, referring to same thing. Then like a Dharmakaya, Dharmata, also Buddha nature, like Tathagata Garbha. And to the certain extent, even the name Buddha. And then to be more specific, and okay, this is not the right time, but just to give you a glimpse, even the concept of deity, like a Vajra Yogini, is actually referring to the same thing, referring to Prajnaparamita. Actually, Prajnaparamita and the Vajra Yogini is the same thing. So you might ask, why confuse us with all these names? Well, different names have a different purpose. For instance, actually, the feminists will like this. The same Prajnaparamita, many times, especially those who are in the Shedra, the Buddhist learning schools, they call Prajnaparamita Yum, which means the mother, the grandmother, sort of the Yum is the honorific language, right? Honorific Yum means mother. Because Prajnaparamita is the mother of all the enlightened beings. And that's, feminists should like this because, we choose the, feminine aspect here. So, for instance, the Shunyata, we use this label, Shunyata, this term, Shunyata, more during the sort of analytical time, establishing the view, argument, logic, we tend to use this more. But the emptiness is not like a dead, void, sort of evaporation of, like disappearance. Emptiness is very much salva, clarity, sarcha, salva ta tongpa. Luminous? Luminous, also very luminous. It's very difficult to translate anyway, luminous. And when sometimes we need to emphasize the luminous aspect. So at that time, Prajnaparamita is a very good word. And then other times, to encourage the bodhisattvas and the practitioners, it's good to use the word Tathagata Garbha, Buddha nature. It's such an encouraging word. It's a bit like this. If I ask one of these attendants here to clean this glass, this is a little dirty, clean it, they will have a complete confidence that this is cleanable. They won't go like, oh my God, like what to do now. They will think, oh, it's easy, just go and wash, cleanable. Likewise, bodhisattvas, when they go roam around benefiting sentient beings, and when they look at these strange, aggressive, emotional, defiled sentient beings, the bodhisattvas, they get excited, they're like famished, they think, this is, finally I have something doable here. Defilements are cleanable. Basically, when the bodhisattvas look at the defiled beings, they see almost like a Buddha in making. Now, let's say we meet someone who's not that bright, don't really analyze a lot, but still want to have some sort of a path to whom he or she can take refuge. We say, this Buddha is a good man. You can trust him. Give him a flower or something like this. And, again, at that time, the Buddha, the label we use, Buddha. So, one thing you need to know is whatever the path you choose, especially spiritual path, that path should not deceive you. A scarecrow should not deceive you in thinking there is a human. The moment you saw a scarecrow and think, that's a scarecrow, that's not a human being, you are safe. You know the truth. Okay, so the path should not deceive you. Okay, for instance, Buddha's teaching, all compounded things are impermanent. This is not going to deceive you. Things are not going to be suddenly, some few things, compounded things will not suddenly become permanent. That's guaranteed. You can trust this. And of all the most trustable thing is the shunyata. And actually trusting that is the taking refuge to the Dharma in the absolute level. I mean, high level. And, we also trust someone who teach you this. This is why we take refuge to the Buddha. We also trust to the community that sort of, agrees the same principle. So this is why I take refuge to the Sangha. So this is why taking a refuge is actually kind of fundamental. Okay? Fire is hot. Water is what? Wet, moisture. That is the truth. You cannot go wrong ever by thinking fire is hot. So this is why the truth needs to be established. We need to now talk about the truth. The truth needs to be established. Talking all of this just to come to this point, actually. Okay. What is taught in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, and if you can recall, is Ngedon, which is, this is what he really meant it, okay? The Buddha's absolute teaching. So this is absolute truth teaching. No nose, no eyes, no tongue, no this, no that. He meant those things. When I was a bird, when I was this, all of that, he didn't really mean it. But to talk about the absolute truth, it is helpful to talk about relative truth. Okay? So we are going to talk about the true truth. And before that, two truths are made up. Two truths are not truth also. Just for the sake of communication, this tool is made up. In other words, I can say the concept of relative truth and ultimate truth only exists within the relative truth. And now, I'm going to talk about the relative truth. And I've been using a few commentaries influenced by Haribhadra, and I still don't know where he came from. Does anyone know? Narayanji, do you know? Anyone knows? Where does he come from? Kashmir? Are you sure? Yeah. You're not so sure? Yeah. Anyway. Okay, not from Haryana. And also, I've used some commentaries from, I think, the disciple of Jatsab J, one of the disciple of Tsongkhapa, Lama Tsongkhapa. And because I have studied a lot in the Sakya tradition, I'm sure a lot of whatever I have said had a Sakya influence. But to teach you the relative truth, I am going to use Tengpo Terchen Sherab. Tengpo Terchen is a terton, he is a treasure discoverer. Normally, the Sakya person, Gelupas, sort of, critically look at them. This terton, sort of phony people, we don't know who they are, Are they genuine charlatans, whatever? There is that kind of attitude. So just to annoy these new translation people, like myself, I should say, I'm going to, based on Tengpo Terchen, this great treasure discoverer. I have a feeling he was one of the inspiration for Jigme Lingpa, the great Jigme Lingpa of the Longchen Nyingtik tradition. Anyway, I believe there's some Rangjung Yeshe Institute students here who are studying Buddhist philosophy. I encourage you to look into this. It's very special. Okay, so relative truth also, relative truth is also divided into two categories. Invalid relative truth and valid relative truth. Valid relative truth is something like a moon in the sky. Okay, anyway, do you think kunzop is proper to translate as a relative truth? Kunzop. Zop has something to do with the fake and lying and deceiving. So relative is okay? Fake. But the relative does not have that connotation, does it? In the English word relative, doesn't have the connotation of zop. Deceptive. Okay, yeah, that's important. Relative truth, according to the Buddhist philosophy, is very deceptive. It doesn't mean that it doesn't function. This table, according to the Buddhist philosophers, it's a relative truth. In fact, valid relative truth. Table. What happens if these organizers have put a cushion here before you came here, long before? Now it's too late. Before you came here, they put a cushion here and my butt is here instead of here. You would think, oh, Rinpoche is sitting on a really funny chair. You understand? There you go. Deceptive. It's very deceptive. It can be chair. Or what happens if I break this, legs, whatever, into pieces? You will not think it is a table. You understand? So relative is very deceptive. This is why, when Buddhists say time is relative, you have to remember that time is deceptive. Oh, this is so important for you to know. So important. Okay, you are a young bodhisattva, let's say. You can't even handle one person, let's say your friend. You can't even handle his or her one morning's mood. Yet, you are supposed to enlighten all sentient beings. Oh my God. And also, 3 countless eons. You work hard, you work hard, you work hard. 3 countless eons later, you will become Buddha. It feels so long. Remember? So many sentient beings, quantity so much. 3 countless eons, so long. But remember, quantity, time is zop, meaning deceptive. So this is why it's so important that you know this. If you know this quite nicely, then 3 countless eons doesn't mean actually nothing to be scared of. Okay? After hearing this, you now know, you can sort of have a glimpse of what is ultimate truth. Definitely not deceptive. Has to be. Okay, now, Tengpo Tesen Sherpa, there's 4 definitions of relative truth. So good, I think. One way to define what is relative truth is Tunpar Nangwa, which means commonly accepted, sort of senses. We all agree this is a flower. Okay, so that's it. That's how you define the valid relative truth. Just because everybody agrees one that's shining today is sun, that's a sun. That's it, that's one. Tumbaranawa, which is like a senses, commonly accepted. I'm sure, and then these roses are red. Don't you think? Roses are red. Tumbaranawa. And knowing we are in this valley, I'm sure some of you are slightly overdosed with bhang this morning. It's a hashish, it's something to smoke. And some of you are here like looking at this flower as blue. Invalid relative truth. Because most of us, we don't agree. We all agree this is red. I can just feel it, there's some bhang going on. Yeah. I always think bhang could be a bodhisattva's manifestation. I'm sure some of these people that's in front of us here now, they're sort of like Buddhists, like the complete, die-hard Buddhists. They came first to Nepal for Bang. I'm very sure I can dig it out. But the Bang, the meditation, the stupa, all this somehow, one way or another, let them hear. So I think I will include in my prayers, may good, hashish, what do you call it? Things that plants grow properly, organic ones. Next time, if you have a really good master, Rinpoche, you should ask this Lama to bless this field. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Okay. The second characteristic or definition of relative truth is Dönje Nupa, something that functions. Something that functions, Dönje Nupa. Like an espresso machine is an espresso machine because it works as it produces espresso. Now, of course, you can see, like if you give an espresso machine to some remote, Nepali or a Bhutanese, they would not know what this is. For them, that espresso machine is not espresso machine, it's just some metal. Okay? The third is Juchenji Chepa, meaning relative truth is always Juchenji Chepa, product of cause and condition. The product of cause and condition. It is something to do with the cause, condition, and effect. It is dependent on cause and condition. Yeah? The fourth, which I like it so much, and this is one of this, if you are a Madhyamikan student, this is something you need to hear. Tana Venpa, the fourth is, if you analyze, it will crumble, or what it does not have a property or it cannot stand on itself. If the moment you analyze, it will fall apart. Such a good thing. This is brilliant, this one. Okay, so for those who are Rangjung Yeshe Institute students especially, but anyway, those who are philosophy students, you have to write down what I'm going to say. It's very, very important. Using an analytical tool that is supposedly meant to find the ultimate truth. Okay, this is a little bit long. I don't know how to put this properly. Using an analytical tool that is supposedly meant to find the ultimate truth, but instead of aiming at the ultimate truth, if you aim at the relative truth, this is Thinyipi Shamden, which means it's like a disgrace of a Buddhist philosopher. You have to write this down. Using an analytical tool that is meant to analyze, to find the ultimate truth. But instead of aiming at the ultimate truth, you, by accident or not knowingly, you use to the relative truth. I will give you a good example. Okay? Then, that is the disgrace of a Buddhist philosopher. Okay? Example is the British Buddhists. Now, I have to tell this. The British Buddhists, those who sort of, laugh at the Buddhist idea of reincarnation, I have to come up with this one. I hope they are listening. Many British Buddhists cherry pick Buddha Dharma. Oh yeah, Shunyata is good, love is good, compassion is good, mindfulness is good, Zafu is good. That's what they do. Reincarnation, oh, that's a Tibetan thing, that's an Indian thing. That's how they condemn. And this we have to viciously slashed, minced, and destroyed, this one. Because show me one sentence in the whole Tripitaka and the Shastra where Buddha said reincarnation exists ultimately. It's even in the Prajnaparamita Sutra. Remember, there's no death, there is no decreasing, there's no increasing. Basically, reincarnation concept exists on the relative level. What the British Buddhists end up doing, without probably them knowing, they are using analysis that is supposedly to analyze the ultimate truth, and then use it on the relative truth. Of course, reincarnation will fall apart. Of course. Even your head will fall apart.
Even what?
Head. Buddhists believe that reincarnation is as absurd as head on your neck that is moving right this very moment. Okay. Can you help me with this one? This is such a good expression. In Kunjab to Kurva Mata Dandam to Dramata. Dramata is like what? Superimpose? Kurva Matab is like what? Subtract or what? Kurva Matab is like, the one is exaggeration, denigration. Drota is like an exaggeration, like fabricate. Right. The other one, Kurva Madhab, so to say something does not exist. Slander. Slander is a good word. You cannot slander the relative truth, and you cannot exaggerate the ultimate truth. This is a philosopher's, ethic, if you like. It's a Buddhist philosopher's ethic. You should not slander relative truth, and you should not exaggerate ultimate truth.
What's slander?
Slander, subtract, the opposite of exaggeration. Is there some English experts here?
Like look down.
Despise is good. Okay. Slander.
Good.
Basically, no reincarnation. Denigrate, yeah. No reincarnation on the relative truth. Of course, we also accept no reincarnation in the ultimate loop. But if you say there is no reincarnation in relative truth, then you are basically slandering, denigrating. You are basically destroying the law of relative truth. Law of relative truth. There are a lot of this kind of Buddhists, especially in Europe and the West. They should be grilled, minced, chopped, fried, barbecued. They destroy the Buddha Dhamma more than any other negative have had. I mean it. I might look a little silly here when I'm talking, and so you may not take it seriously, but I mean this one. So, with these four definitions I have presented, not I, Tengpo Tersin Sherpa says, brilliantly, a terton, by the way, a treasure. Tertons are important. I think Mozart is a terton. Mozart, right? Mozart. Wolfgang Mozart is a terton, I think. 5 years old?
3 years.
He composed something, 5 years old? He composed a sonata, is it sonata? 5 years old. I'm just giving you an example of how to understand, just special people who thinks specially out of nowhere without any pre-arrangement. Okay, anyway. So if you look at these four categories that I just told you, you then realize relative truths are deceptive. Okay, consensus? Just because majority of the people believe that that is it, does not mean that it's true. Remember that villager somewhere in Nepal, outside, who has never seen espresso machine? For him, the espresso machine that we agreed is nothing. Anyway, to the certain extent, President Trump is elected, isn't it? To the certain extent. The second one is cause and condition. Oh my goodness, that is even more so. Because if something is dependent on cause and condition, then you can never trust, because it's dependent. Like a weather. Anything can happen. Just movement of cause and conditions, the situation can change. The second one is it doesn't matter anyway. Actually, the second one is Dwenje Nupa, which is what? Reusable, right? Function. Function, Dwenje Nupa. You know, Dwenje Nupa. It's something that has a function. And I've told you that, like the table, the chair, this could have been a table for me. It could have been. So, again, you cannot really say it is a truly table. You cannot. Okay? And the fourth one, if you analyze, if I analyze this table one by one, nails, whatever, painting, whatever, the whole notion, the idea of table collapses. Okay, by now, I know what has happened to some of you people. By now, some of you may be looking at relative truth as a used tissue. Oh, deceptive, the bad one. We want ultimate truth. If you have that, this is a practitioner's disgrace. Remember, I already told you the philosopher's disgrace. This is a practitioner's disgrace. You cannot forsake relative truth. You cannot. Impossible. You should not. So, flowers are important, incense are important, going to Bodhanath and going to circumambulate, all this bell ringing, all this is important. So-called path, Buddha Dharma, is relative truth. If you get rid of relative truth, Buddha Dharma also is gone within that package. It's really important to know. Okay, now this should now give you an idea of what is ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is definitely not what we have just told you. Yeah, this is the only, this is the best way to understand the ultimate truth. For someone who has never tasted a salt, you cannot tell him this salt tastes like this. You cannot. You have to give them sugar and tell them, this is not it. Chili and say, this is not salt. You have to keep on saying, this is no, that's why there's no nose, no ears, no this, no that. Now it's coming to the, Heart Sutras, no, the word no. I know some of you Buddhist fanatics are going to not like this, but I have to quote Rajneesh. Definitely he's a closet Buddhist, I think. He said, Buddhist no is a very special no. In the Buddhist no, he said there's 100,000 yes. Okay, so now going to the Heart Sutra text again. So Avalokiteshvara said, Zuktongpavo form is emptiness. All that four sort of aspects of shunyata that we talked yesterday. I'm going to talk a little bit about that again. Just keep remembering our challenge. Our challenge is not knowing how to Sungjuk, how do you say Sungjuk? Union? Sungjuk, Nangtong Sungjuk. Union. But the biggest challenge is not being able to understand the union of form and emptiness. When we see something present, we forget its emptiness. When we experience something void, we forget the vividness or the form. Basically, not being able to make a harmonious marriage between the appearance and the emptiness this is the biggest challenge. I told you already, the only rare occasions Nangtong Sungjuk kind of we have is when we look at the mirror, probably. Or a mother playing with a kid, building a sand castle. Mother knows this is not real castle, but still, pretends or what, kind of go through all the building procedure. Okay, bottom line you need to know is when Avalokiteshvara said, there is no eyes, immediately you have to know, you have to remember, emptiness is eyes. Understand? Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Immediately. So, form is emptiness. When we say that, we are not negating the form. Because immediately after that, we have emptiness is form. And the emptiness and the form are not a two separate entity. This is what is emphasized by the two next line, like emptiness is not other than the form, and the form is not other than the emptiness. Today I'm going to let you ask questions very soon, so especially regarding this, but a little bit more here. And this, by the way, is also exactly the same thing with the Tendel, the dependent arising. Yeah. There's something so special here. You know, for the ordinary people, to prove something truly exists, we usually prove it with its genesis, Jeva, no? Genesis, the evolution, Genesis, birth date, you exist because in your passport you were born on this and that. You understand? Sort of, and then father's name, mother's name, to prove that you exist. That's one proof, isn't it? Your proof of existence is your birthday and your parents' birthplace, I guess. Another proof of existence is dwelling at the moment, addresses, billing address. And also, funny enough, proof of existence of somebody could be also the death, the expiry date. So Mr. Shakespeare lived from 19 this to this. So ordinary people like you and me, when we hear these proof, we then develop, he or she exists. It actually becomes a validation. But the same reason, if you talk to Nagarjuna, all these reasons are proof that it's not born. If something is caused and conditioned, it proves that things are not truly arisen or being born. This is a part that you need a little bit of thinking, this one. But it makes sense. Oh, by the way, you need to remember, relative truth, just because it's deceptive does not mean it's chaotic. Not at all. Next 100 days, if you look at the mirror, your face is going to appear in the mirror. This will not make that face in the mirror more truer. You understand? After 1,000 years, you look at the mirror, your face is back again. So for the Nagarjuna and these guys, in their mind, when cause and conditions are gathered, there is an appearance of the birth of this, the death of that, dwelling of this, so on and so forth. This is how these guys look at things. So now, remember going back to the question, Shariputra was very puzzled what Avalokiteshvara is doing. Avalokiteshvara is looking at things in this way. Everything he is thinking in this way. Just quickly, so this same applies to the rest of the aggregates, 12 ayatanas and 18 dhatus. And so I'm not going to go through each of this because it's similar. And yes, maybe before the break, I will also take some questions after the break, maybe before the break, 1 or 2 questions. And yes, please remind me to talk about compassion, because compassion is so much associated with this. Okay, please.
Rinpoche, thank you very much for your teachings. I have a question. While you were talking about relative truths, it's philosophers' disgrace that if they use the analytical tools to analyze relative to truths, like the table is a table.
Yes, not all the, you can analyze whether this table is good for your living room or not. That's a relative analysis. But the moment you analyze, where is table? Is this really table? Then you are using the analysis that is aimed towards the ultimate. That you can't do.
But how do we, the table is a physical construct. If we don't start analyzing, let's say, instead of physical table, what about social constructs?
Everything. Oh, they are even more illusory. What kind of social instruction?
So, for example, I mean, women being able to vote or being able to represent, if we don't question those kind of what you say relative truths, then we'll
I
never...
have never told you not to use a table. I have never told you not to vote. I have told you that you can do all of that, remember? But just know that you are playing with a kid and building a sandcastles. Or you are watching a movie. What is the benefit of watching a movie? When you are watching, you get engaged, you are really following the story, but if your bladder is full, just pause it. You have so much confidence. Pause it and go to the toilet. You come back and play, or rewind. That's the confidence you need to get to rewind this movie, you understand, so to speak?
So you are suggesting that we should question the relative truths up to a point that we're comfortable?
We should question that whatever we see is just an appearance, it's not how it is. I think, let's put it this way. Yeah. Everything what you experience that's how it appears to you, but maybe it's not, like let's say my husband looks really nice, but maybe he has a tail. That kind of thing. You understand?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, please.
If after totally understanding relative truth, and we have no further questions, is that ultimate truth?
Yes, understanding the relative truth is actually understanding the ultimate truth also. This is why many people will say, for instance, the texts such as Madhyamika Avatara by Chandrakirti is actually a text to study relative truth. Because knowing that scarecrow, okay, knowing the scarecrow, okay, finding this or discovering that it is a scarecrow and discovering that it is not a human comes simultaneously. Comes simultaneously, right?
So in that case, the absolute view still needs a process to understand.
Can you repeat that again?
The ultimate truth, the ultimate view, we still need a process to realize it. Is it?
After the understanding of the relative truth, no.
He said the ultimate wisdom, is it innate or is it involve a process to obtain?
Very good question. Yes. I just have to say Longchenpa. In one of his writings, it's like this. Where is samsara? What do you mean by samsara? What is nirvana? Something like that, he says. I don't see anything imperfect. So beautiful. Kuntu zangbo. all the time good. Right? How do you translate that? No matter how many 3 years retreat you do from now on, your innate nature is not going to become better. No matter how many lifetimes you will roam in the samsara and roll around in the shit, your Buddha nature is not going to become lesser. It's in the Heart Sutra. Wait, let me find it. Where is it? Yes, 대신 등하고도 끈중고도 고보다 남매 예심에 터밤에 맞춰봐야 매도 뒤함에 강함에 no increasing, no decreasing, no getting, not losing. If we talk about that level, yes, that's how it is. Your question is correct. But remember, Shantadeva, for the time being, you must have one ignorance to think that there is an enlightenment. And you might quickly ask me a question, why? Why should I have that ignorance? Shantadeva said, because you are suffering. Even though ultimately there is no suffering. Again, the Heart Sutra says, but you think you are suffering. Okay.
Relationship between the enlightenment and openness. What is the difference between stubborn and openness? And second question is...
stubborn openness is obvious. Okay, anyway, tell me.
For certain things, one person may care a lot, the other person may totally couldn't care less. So this couldn't care lessness is openness?
I don't know, which level are you talking about? Couldn't carelessness can be very irresponsible, you know. Loving freedom and loving to be irresponsible are very, very close. Yeah, modern people love freedom. I'm hearing they love irresponsibility.
You're hearing?
When they say we love freedom, I'm hearing we want to be irresponsible. If you're talking about a Mahasandhi, you know, the great Mahasiddha level of couldn't carelessness, oh, that's different. That's a compassion. Okay?
Okay, can you expound a little more? The suffering is bliss, or samsara is bliss? Yet. And
go to the, you know, tantric teachings. There they will teach you this.
Oh.
I am a Mahayanist here. Okay.
His question is, Nagarjuna has wrote 2 books. One is Tamatatu something, and the other is Madhyamika Mula. And some people said the emptiness he expounded in the first book is more supreme than the second one.
They can say whatever they want to say until their lips are worn out. Yeah.
Rinpoche, as far as I understand it, it's because emptiness is form that we can, when we're taking refuge, for example, see the Buddha in front of us and he is actually there, is what we're told. So what is the difference between what we are seeing and visualizing as the Buddha actually there versus these guys who prayed and prayed like a Sangha for 12 years for Maitreya to appear in front of him? What is the difference? What level of emptiness form was he praying for? Because, I mean, he could have just visualized Maitreya.
What is the difference between how we see?
When we look and say, oh, Buddha is in front of us, and we're visualizing, and we're expected to believe, okay, he is actually there.
Right.
But a Sangha spent 12 years praying that Maitreya would appear in front of him. I mean, I'm sure he could have visualized Maitreya.
Oh, yeah.
So what is the difference? What was he praying for? What form, what level of emptiness form was he praying to see Maitreya in?
Yeah, that Asanga story, there's so many stories like that these Mahayana people use.
Is that just a children's tale?
Well, you know, it's supposedly to inspire people to be diligent. Asanga is not that of an idiot, but, such stories is necessary.
So I should be aspiring when I'm looking at Buddha, and believing he's actually there. What should I be aspiring for if I'm trying to take a Sangha's example?
It's, by the way, the Asanga story has a meaning though, like, right now it'd be so difficult for you to really, really, really believe and buy if I say, here, this is the Buddha, see? It's very, very difficult. You would try to sort of, with a lot of salt, you can sort of swallow it probably, but then you will end up again going back to the Buddha with a certain character. But, as you practice and practice, one day you will not be hijacked by the distinctions of golden color or four-prong shiny stuff. And then, the gap between the folk and the Shakyamuni Buddha or whatever the Buddha is supposedly look like will become closer. So till then, I think it is always safe to look at someone who, looks like a deity, like a Manjushri. Tibetans, we pray to Manjushri, who is always with a knife like this. And if you tell any of these Tibetans, so maybe Manjushri's knife can be sometimes like this, they will say, no. Yeah, they will. If I ever make a statue, if I go to Kathmandu statue makers and ask them, okay, I want a Manjushri statues that's like this, like Manjushri swords coming like this. They will say, really? Manjushri doesn't look like that. What they don't know is Manjushri is not like a retarded, whole day, whole night, 24 hours. You can't. They don't know that. Anyway, let's go to the toilet. My bladder is totally full.